Hi, I'm Erik Voss, and the Game of Thrones Season 8 trailer set up the epic stakes for the final 6 episodes of the series. But one major character the show keeps leaving out is Ghost, Jon's direwolf. Arya's direwolf, Nymeria, got a major appearance in Season 7, but Ghost was ghosted. Now, Ghost is supposed to play a major role in this final season, according to crew, and if you look closely at this trailer, he may actually have been hiding in plain sight. I'm gonna explain where and what role the surviving direwolves could play in this final season of Game of Thrones. Spoiler warning in case any of my theories end up being right and they ruin your life. Okay, if you watch this trailer as many dozens of times as I have, there are actually a few places Ghost or Nymeria could have appeared. The one I pointed out in my trailer breakdown was this shot of horses charging through the snow. If you look closely, you can see what look like shorter white legs along with some shaggier looking white or gray fur. It's not confirmed, but this could be a sign that the direwolves will play a role in the Battle of Winterfell, like perhaps part of Jon's cavalry charge against the dead, or maybe arriving last minute to save their asses. I honestly think a lot of different non-human creatures will factor into this battle. We know the army of the dead includes a resurrected dragon, as well as resurrected giants, and we saw how effective giants could be at breaching the gates of Winterfell. They also have corpse bears, and according to Old Nan and various legends, giant ice spiders. Like there's that shot in the trailer when Arya cuts through something that spews out a good amount of blood or fluid. It's gonna be a beastly battle. The director of the Battle of Winterfell, Miguel Sapochnik, said that he was inspired by Lord of the Rings battles like Helm's Deep, and existential battles and fantasy worlds like this one typically do feature a number of fantasy creatures beyond humans. And along with Jon and Dany using their 2 dragons, I think they're gonna use every beast that they can, including the direwolf Ghost if they can get him. He's apparently real busy these days. But where else could Ghost be hiding in this trailer? Some of you pointed out the shots in the Winterfell crypts, but that direwolf is a statue of a direwolf, as many old Stark graves have direwolf statues accompanying them. Some others pointed out that shot of Jon in the Winterfell Godswood, saying Ghost is in the background, but that is a bush. But then right at the end of the trailer, as Ser Jorah Mormont stares down the coming enemy, there definitely is some light-furred animal moving behind him. Now this could be a horse, as we did see some Dothraki riding pale horses behind Jorah earlier, but it's hard to tell if this thing is the same height as a horse, or if there's any rider on its back. VFX supervisor Joe Bauer promised in an interview that we would see Ghost again, that he has a fair amount of screen time in Season 8, and that he's very present and does some pretty cool things. The direwolves were a very big part of the show in Season 1, but over time the animals have played a smaller and smaller role, largely because their immense size makes them difficult visual effects to produce. And I guess the show would rather spend that money on dragons. In the books, the direwolves carry a much deeper importance to the narrative, and the corresponding 6 direwolf pups discovered at the beginning of the story share a thematic parallel with the Stark children. Like we know Bran is a warg, a person who can share their consciousness with an animal, seeing through that animal's eyes and controlling the animal's actions. Like he sees through the eyes of his direwolf Summer and he hunts through him. And in the books it's hinted that the other Starks share a warg-like connection with their direwolves too. Jon and Arya both dream from the perspective of their direwolves, and although we never get a point of view chapter from Robb, there are some clues. Like he was described as being in a trance-like state at one point, not responding to questions as he's just stared vacantly at a map. And on the battlefield, witnesses talked about a strange connection between the boy and the wolf, as if they shared the same mind, and that's what made him so effective in battle. Sansa's direwolf lady was killed off early on, and we don't really know if Rickon had any connection to Shaggy Dog, but George R.R. Martin did say years before the show came out that he had in his notes that all the Stark kids could be wargs. Ned told Bran at the beginning of all this that House Stark descends from the first men, and one theory is that their bloodline gives them the power to warg. Like looking back into the history of Westeros, shortly after the Long Night, ancient Starks defeated a figure known as the Warg King. They killed his sons and they married his daughters into their family, suggesting this could have been the origin of the warg trait within the Stark bloodline. Perhaps several generations of Starks simply didn't know they had this ability. Though Lyanna Stark did have a unique connection with horses. Many described her as the best horse rider in Westeros.
Stop showing off! Lyanna!
But whether or not genetics are part of this, George R.R. Martin has implied that they aren't. The rules definitely changed with the arrival of the direwolf pups. Direwolves are magical creatures that hadn't been seen south of the Wall, so much so that they were considered by many to be a myth. Some believe that, along with the rebirth of the dragons, reflected a reawakening of magic within the world of Westeros, allowing this latest generation of Starks to connect with their direwolves. Now again, this HBO series has largely done away with this whole direwolves backstory. Really, in the show, the direwolves aren't much more than loyal furry companions, at most spirited spirit animals, but there have been some hints that there's something more there. Remember, when Lady Melisandre resurrected Jon, Ghost sensed his return slightly before he woke up. And these cool things that the VFX team promised for Ghost may go beyond them just tearing through whites at the Battle of Winterfell. Like, it could involve a reunion with the other surviving direwolf, Nymeria. In the Clash of Kings, Jon and Arya's wolf dreams suggest that Ghost and Nymeria could be calling out to each other, their lonely howls echoing across Westeros. Nymeria's recent return in season 7 suggested that she had no interest in returning to Winterfell, turning away with her new pack when Arya begged her to go home with her.
That's not you.
In this moment, Arya realized a new interpretation of her father's words. The lone wolf dies, but the pack survives. If Nymeria joined her back at Winterfell, Nymeria would be a pet again. But now Nymeria leads her own pack. And I could see that pack returning to help Arya and the other Starks, and Nymeria's brother, Ghost, in the Battle of Winterfell in season 8. Or, to go a little tinfoil, a dead Nymeria, resurrected by the Night King, could return to attack Arya, and potentially set up a showdown between the living Ghost and the dead Nymeria. Wolf Ball! Oh! And this would parallel other sibling battles between the living Drogon and Rhaegal and the dead Viserion, and the living Hound and the dead resurrected Sword of Mountain. Or maybe Nymeria could inspire Arya to just leave this battlefront altogether in search of her own pack. Whether or not humanity wins the day against the dead just doesn't really seem like Arya's core mission, right? There's been much speculation over what Arya's ultimate destiny is, but I think the Direwolves' biggest influence on this final season of Game of Thrones could be to inspire these wolf kids to seek their own packs, even when that could mean going rogue from the pack that they were born into. What role do you want Ghost to play in the final season? Comment down below with your thoughts, follow me on Twitter and Instagram at EAVoss, and subscribe to this channel for more Game of Thrones analysis and theories. Thank you for watching, and hold on to those butts because Wolf Bowl 2019 is coming! Ooh!